Follow the money.
That's what I always say. You always follow the money.
Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
Yes, here we go. Paulie Howard, Mike Paulman from Mitch Moss. Welcome into Follow the Money, show presented by DraftKings. Busy show coming up. Tom Byrne to talk NBA Finals from SiriusXM Radio. Scott Agnes covers the Fever, the Clark debacle, and what's going on in the WNBA. Jonathan Davis to preview the NHL Finals as well. A regular on the show with a plethora of picks. Big show coming up. Coco Gauff dropped the first set, $5 favorite. She is now trying to finish it off. Leads 5-3 in the third set, trying to move on to the semis. Mike Palm again, pinch hitting. Great to see you. How you doing, Maestro? Palm Readers Unite.
Thank you. Love being on. Love having the opportunity. So Mitch has something to take care of, so we'll step in here and have some fun for 3 hours.
That's right. How do you see this? By the way, a list with Mike Palm on announcers I can't wait to get to as well in the second hour of the program. Did you do anything with the tennis? And what do you think here if Coco can advance and get to the semis? And then Iga's a 1,500 favorite coming up as well. Sinner's 450, Alcaraz is 450, so some big favorites today with the French Open.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how Djokovic's knee is. They're going to have further x-rays. He said, you heard the hot mic, my knee's screwed up. Mm-hmm. He's unbelievable in these 5 sets. When he gets to 5 sets, he can't be beat because the other guy folds under the pressure.
Yeah.
This Argentinian wilted yesterday. Mm-hmm. I can't believe that he came back down the break in the 4th set and rallied. And then when he gets to 5, you know he's going to win it. But I was really surprised that Cyril Noto didn't finish him off in the 4th set there. It would be an interesting matchup, but not so fast here. Love 30. Jabeur takes the first 2 points of Game 9 here in the 3rd set.
Man. So what did you? How high was Joker in play?
I saw him at plus 330.
Yeah,
when he was down a break in the 4th set.
So he opens,
and he was also hurt.
Yeah, right.
You could see he wasn't moving freely.
Yeah.
Right.
So he's questioning if he can even go out there and play. Well, and then he's opens a plus 105 short dog. I'd have to look at the favorite there with he's being compromised.
The first 2 sets. The Argentinian kid, it took him till the 13th break point to finally break Joker there and win the 2nd set. He had a lot of opportunities. On Joker's service games, especially the 2nd set, it seemed every game he had break points.
Looked like it was over. Incredible comeback. No doubt about it. Okay, well, NBA, NHL Finals. We're getting ready here for the card. And finally this break, Game 1 Thursday. And, I was thinking about this, and we're not splitting the atom here, but all the pressure is on Boston. You're talking about 6 of the last 8 years you made the Eastern Conference Finals. Now you're in the finals for the 2nd time. It did not go well for Tatum a couple years ago when you lost to the Warriors. You're not going to find an easier path to win a title. So you're trying to get to 18 titles in the storied history of this great organization. You're a 220 series favorite, and you're laying 6.5 in Game 1, obviously, with home court. But you take on the Miami Heat, Butler, best player, out, doesn't play. You take on Cleveland, no Allen. Mitchell misses a couple games. No problems there. You also win in 5. Then you take on the Pacers. You should have lost Game 1. You could have lost Game 3. And then Halliburton goes out. They don't have their best player. And now it's a great story. They're an excellent team with a great duo. But you are playing a 5 seed in the Mavs. So the Mavs can come in loose knowing, hey, it's already a successful season and a great year. My God, we missed the playoffs last year. Although there was tanking involved late, the fan base was furious. It worked out. They got lively in the draft. But even if Dallas is competitive and lose, it's a great season. Okay, let's come back and get them next year. And we made a lot of good moves at the deadline. But imagine what people are saying about Brown and Tatum if they can't get it done here. And again, they fall short. And all this time and all these playoff games, and you don't have one ring.
Yeah, you're taking on the 5 seed from the West.
No doubt.
I mean, the easiest playoff path ever, if you think about it, with all the injuries. But I think Dallas is pretty live here, Paul, because since the trade deadline, and you mentioned the acquisitions they made, and, these young guys give them a lot of energy off the bench, the rebounding, and I forgot how good Kyrie was with all his nonsense and the flat earth and the COVID and all that. I don't blame him for the LeBron side of it, but the rest of it was all pure insanity. He's really almost unstoppable when he's playing like he is. They've got the best point differential per 100 possessions since the trade deadline, including the Celtics. Throughout that from that point on, through we get to the NBA Finals, they do. and they played very well. They really should have only lost Game 1 to OKC, if you think about that, because Game 4, they were up the whole game between 8 and 14 points, the entire game, and OKC came back and won that game at the end really remarkably. Yes, they take their foot off the gas in Game 4, maybe in Dallas, then go up to Minnesota and blow them out in Game 5.
Yep.
They've had a very dominant playoff run so far here. So I thought the price was about right. I mean, many people have asked me, it's too short, 220 is too short, Celtics should be $3. I don't think so. I think this is about the right price.
Well, Dallas also has the best player in the series, and that would bode well for them in history, knowing that I take the floor and I have the best player as well. How's the action been so far here?
We need the Celtics. The Celtics is the perfect result. Nobody's bet. I mean, for 4 months they were even money to come out of the East. It's great.
Yeah.
Now, we took a hit in the Western Conference. We lost to Dallas, but we eliminated the huge liability of Minnesota. Minnesota was by far our worst result. So now Dallas is a small winner to the final, and the Celtics are a big winner for us. But we did take the hit in the Western Conference. So we're pulling for the Celtics as of now. I can't imagine that will change, that we're going to get so much Boston money that would flip that result.
Okay. And as we've talked about for the last few months, home court, home ice hasn't meant anything here in the playoffs. And Dallas is 7-2 on the road. Do you think they get an edge here with the schedule, knowing that they've already beat 3 50-win teams? And Brian Windhorst, from ESPN, had a great line. He gave the Celtics a pass in the first 2 rounds, quote, because they didn't have skin in the game. I mean, they knew they were such huge favorites that they weren't going to be tested, and he didn't have Butler, and he didn't have Mitchell, and those teams couldn't throw a decent punch at him as well. So I think that's interesting. And here, finally, Boston has to wake up that they've just had to take the floor, roll the balls out, and they were going to win the series, while Dallas is playing the top teams in the league.
It will be interesting here because this Celtics team, through the last handful of years, always throws these clunkers in these series, right? I don't know how many clunkers they can throw in against the Mavericks. They're going to have to be on their best, I think, most nights to win this series. Now, I don't necessarily like the NHL. I don't know that the home court means a lot in the series. I mean, obviously, it's a West versus an East team, so you only play there once a year. It's not like you have familiarity with the building or with the shooting environment, depending on what teams you've been on. But I like this series to go over 5.5 games. That's what I bet, Paul. I laid 145 over 5.5.
Okay, very good. This is the first time in the finals Boston's favored since 1986. Hard to believe. Good tweet from Ben Fawkes. Dogs in 87. Unbelievable. Dogs somehow in 2008 with home court against the Lakers, plus 160. Dogs in 2010, Dogs in 2022 as well. Since 1990, favorites in the finals of $2 or higher are 21-3 straight up. Your losers, the Warriors in 19, the Warriors in 16, and the Lakers in 2004. This from David Purdom is unbelievable. The Celtics were dogs just 3 times all season, tied for the fewest by any team to reach the finals this century. The Mavericks were underdogs 42 times this season, most by any team to reach the finals this century. But as you know, you nailed it. It's a completely different team since the deadline. And what the Dallas 22-9 since the deadline, Boston 25-6.
There's also a little bit of noise in those numbers in today's NBA, Paul. When 2 starters sit out and a team you would have been favored by 5 against, and now you're a 4-point dog. But it is a stunning statistic when you talk about 3 against 40-something games.
Mm-hmm. Also, Dallas doing this without home court. Teams to reach the finals without home court since the merger in 76. This year's Dallas team, last year Miami, the Knicks in 99, and the Rockets in 95 and 81. And also the 8th team to make it in the last 40 years of odds of 25-1 or worse to make it as well. So there's a lot going on here with Dallas, and you got the big time favorites the whole year. An incredible job by Brad Stevens to take Time Lord, Brogdon, and Smart and get Porzingis and Holiday in the moves they made, and they've been in this position the whole year in the most efficient offense in NBA history.
Well, I will say, Paul, going into the playoffs, there was steam on Dallas. Okay, they drew in because Denver got the 2. They drew to the right side of the bracket, right? where you had Oklahoma City,
yeah.
an inexperienced Oklahoma City team on that side, and they were bet heavily against they were the favorite, even though they were the road team, against the Clippers with Kawhi out, Kawhi in, Kawhi. So, I mean, there was a lot of thought that Dallas was going to make their way at least to a conference final. And then they get very lucky, I think, because Minnesota beats Denver. I think Aaron Gordon would have presented big matchup problems for P.J. Washington had it been that in the Western Conference final.
That would have been a tough matchup for Dallas. And who knows what happens if Kawhi was 100% as well in that. I mean, that series did go 6, and you didn't have a healthy Kawhi as well. One thing that interests me here is the corner three angle. And Dallas attempted the most corner threes in the year on the season, and Luka had 318 passes, which led to corner threes. And you see how dominant Washington's been, how great Jones has been, if they can knock those shots down. But peekaboo, I mean, Boston's unbelievable at defending the corner three. So that'll be a big a telling storyline from this finals as well. And as you said earlier, though, I would not mess around if I'm Boston. You don't want to punt one of these first 2 games at home, but that's been their track record in their history. Why are you only a couple games over 500 at home the last 3 years in the playoffs, yet you're so good, 22-7 on the road?
Usually it's game 2. They played poor game 1 against the Pacers. The Pacers gave it away.
Yeah. Right. Unbelievable. We'll get to update with the French Open. We'll also get Mike's thoughts on the Stanley Cup Finals as well. A good Major League Baseball card and some numbers on the Philadelphia Phillies that will blow your mind. Coming up next, VSiN, Follow the Money. Act now, save big. Annual subscription, VSiN Pro, unbeatable price, $199. We're throwing an extra month for free, 13 months, less than 50 cents a day. Every bet, every host, every guest, betting systems, premium analysis, betting splits, great dog videos, and like the Science Girl video today, incredible with the speed of the animals. VSiN.com/subscribe. Code FTM. Code FTM. Won't last long. Code FTM. Do it now. Great to talk to Tom Byrne. Mad Dog Sports Radio, Channel 82. He's on the Progressive Guest Line. Follow him on X at @1TomByrne, BYRNE, to preview the NBA Finals. Appreciate the time, sir. How much do you make of the schedule edge here that maybe Dallas had to beat 3 teams that won 50 games, so they are tested, while Boston had an easy path? Is there something there?
Yeah, everybody keeps talking about this over on Mad Dog Sports Radio, too, as being a big factor, Paulie. I don't know that I buy that it is, and I know my example is not a perfect one, but the 87 Lakers played 3 teams that were 10 games under 500. Think about that. They played 3 teams that combined were 10 under. Now, the difference obviously is, okay, I know you guys rolled your eyes. Well, that team had Magic Johnson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. They had championship DNA, 100%. So I understand that. But at the same time, you know what, Boston, I know they had a couple lousy game 2s. They did take care of their business at the end of the day. You know, we're always rough on Boston. If they win, we yawn, even if they win by 20. If they lose, we want to make it the big deal the next day. So I think there's a little something to it, but I don't know how to quantify that as much of an edge, to be honest with you.
Okay. Well, what's your favorite matchup and the thing you're looking forward to with Keys here as we get ready for Game 1 Thursday?
Well, I'm very interested to see, number one, where they hide Luka Doncic, because as great as he is offensively, and this guy is an historical great offensively, but defensively, he leaves a lot to be desired. You know, the conversation around his career has always been he gets a little worn down defensively, especially as the day goes on. And so, look, Drew Holiday, I think, is somebody who can make Luka pay. I mean, Luka, again, he does not have a lot of agility out on the perimeter defensively. Drew should be able to beat him with a quick first step. We remember in the past he's been a scorer when necessary. This year he's kind of taken a step back. They've got so many options: Tatum, Brown, White, Horford, Porzingis. But when he needs to, he can still be effective. He can shoot the 3. He can attack off closeouts. I'd like to keep a look at some of these Drew Holiday numbers throughout the series if that's the way they end up going with the matchup.
Yeah, to follow up on that, Tom, would they put Luka on Horford instead? And if they did, who is Kyrie going to guard? I mean, if you put him on White, you're going to spend a lot of energy on the defensive side of the ball. And
these are some of the issues I think Dallas has, guys. It's one of the reasons why when I saw $2 price pop, I did elect to take it with Boston, even though they're a tough team to trust. But I thought there was a little too much value there because it's an excellent point. Mike, I think putting him on Horford makes a lot of sense. Horford, especially at this stage of his career, really isn't going to make you work all that much. He wants to act like he's Craig Hodges. He just wants to sit on the three-point line, right?
Yeah.
And drink a coffee. And so that's all you really have to worry about. But then again, you're not going to be in a great position because, to your point, where does Kyrie go? And listen, Kyrie, two things can be true at the same time, deserves a ton of credit. What a tremendous job he's done throughout this run. He did an awful job in Boston and Brooklyn, completely embarrassed himself, but has been wonderful here. I mean, another great series against the Fighting St. Pauli Howards. Them taking out Minnesota in 5 games was as impressive as you can get. But let's not act like he's, a great defender yet. And so, again, you're going to have a problem on the floor. Let's see if they attack these mismatches.
Yeah, excellent points, Tom, and I'm glad you brought up what happened in Boston and the debacle in Brooklyn as well, and I don't want to play and everything else he was going through. Well, he's fun to watch, and he's been great. This redemption tour, and like we owe him an apology, is absolute nonsense. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm looking at this with the corner three angle. So Dallas was number 1 in corner threes. Washington was fantastic against OKC. Jones is knocking down threes, and Luka kicking it out to him. And Boston does a great job taking this away and guarding the corner three. Is there something there and how that could play out? And maybe, Boston shuts it down. Maybe White has some big games. How do you see? Because it's going to be bombs away in this series, and maybe Boston falls in love with the three too many times.
Oh, 100%. That's where Boston gets themselves in trouble. There's such a high variance offense. You look at these nights where they just spit the bit, and these game twos, you look and they shoot like 20%, 18% from three. That's the difference. And the next game they're going to be fine because they're going to have positive shooting regression. So they're going to shoot a ton. I think Derek White is an excellent player who's been undervalued all year. There's no other way around it. I mean, every important metric proves my point. So I think you're onto something with White here. The problem is you're handicapping human beings, and they are dying to give an award to Jason Tatum or maybe even Jaylen Brown. Yeah. And so from that standpoint, and once they gave Andre Iguodala Finals MVP years ago, we all knew that it was no longer a market you could bet into because that's the biggest disgrace I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
I mean, LeBron averaged 32, 13, and 9. I mean, geez. And so be careful, but if you can get 50-1 on White, and as far as the corner three thing, I like that because I could have visited somebody like P.J. Washington, for example, who takes what the defense gives him. If he's going to get the three, he's going to shoot that corner three. But if they're going to close out hard, and Boston has a reputation of trying to do that, run you off the three-point line, he's going to attack those closeouts. Could lead to a lesser amount of threes. We shall see.
Okay. I think Washington can play a role in this series, no doubt. You made a good point off air. So much has been made of Kyrie and how that ended, and he kind of apologized for how he acted in Boston. It did not go well for Porzingis in Dallas. So how about that angle? And also, what do you expect out of Porzingis in the series?
Yeah, Porzingis is a kind of an unknown. He's an excellent player. He's been very efficient this year. He's shooting lights out. But it's hard to trust him because, first of all, he never plays. It's not like, I know there's other guys who are always hurt. Embiid comes to mind. At least he's out there dragging a leg. Kristaps Porzingis strikes me as a dude, if he's not 100%, he's not out there. Right? So I think he's going to play, and he'll space the floor a little bit. He could take bigs away from the bucket and open up driving lanes that otherwise aren't there as often when he's not there. But, man, how is he going to handle that atmosphere in Dallas? I mean, it's going to be a finals crowd. I know we don't look at Dallas like a huge NBA town, but they're hype right now. They're going to make tons of noise, and they're going to be on Kristaps Porzingis. Just like Boston's on Kyrie, they're going to be on KP. Is he going to, in their face, drop 20 on them and start whooping to the crowd? It doesn't seem like his personality. He wants to be that tough guy, but it doesn't seem like he's that guy. Let's see if he performs on the road. Something tells me he might be a little better and more comfortable in Boston in this series.
Tom, game 1 Thursday night opened 6.5. We're sitting at 214.5 for a total. Dallas has been the third best team in the playoffs in points per 100 possessions, but we talked about the matchup issues for them with the Celtics. When you look at this total, at least in the opening game of 214.5, do you have a lean to over-under on how the pace and points will be in this series?
Yeah, I would lean over, and number one, you always, and you know this, Mike, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but you tend to be a little bit more willing to do it on that over early in the series than later when it starts to clamp up a little bit. And we all know if you pay attention to pace, a team that is about 100 possessions in the regular season is probably going to be down closer to 92, 93 by the postseason. And so, the Indiana series notwithstanding, because they're going to move it a little bit because the pace of the Pacers But in this game, look, you could convince me maybe a little bit of a feeling out process. But I do think at the end of the day, that's not a bad number to maybe think about. I'm not on it. I don't know that I will play. I might try to get a sense early in the game, see if they, first couple of minutes feel each other out, then maybe hop on a better number. But I would lean that direction.
So you bet Boston. I mean, does it go 6? Does it go 7? What do you think? I mean, imagine if Dallas can steal one early, 7-2 on the road in the playoffs with all the issues Boston's had at home the last 3 years. So how do you see the series going if at Boston, and maybe if you want to do some other bets and lay a game and a half, that type of thing?
Yeah, so like I said, I took the series price. When I went through my numbers, saw that the most likely result was 7. That's Boston. Second most likely result was Boston at 5. And then, was Dallas in 6, and then the third was Boston at 5. Just purely by the numbers, didn't see enough value to hit any of them. I do think there's little value in laying a game and a half. I mean, I think I heard Mike say he's on the other side. I think I didn't do it, but I think I would suggest laying the 1.5. Believe it or not, I'd rather just have the ticket in my pocket of laying $2 or $2.10. I wouldn't go beyond that. Even if you hate to lay $2, especially a team like Boston that's hard to trust. But I do think just in case this does get back to Boston for a Game 7, I think you get yourself a little insurance there.
Luka just led the Western Conference Finals in points, rebounds, assists, and threes.
Yeah.
What would you do? And he's $7, I think, in the assists. But how about Tatum and rebound? Or would you look at any of those markets to lead the series in those categories?
Yeah, it's interesting. I haven't delved into the details yet in terms of those markets, but Luka is just so ridiculous. And it's like 2017, 2018 Harden. He just dominates the basketball. Sometimes his teammates get caught looking. The problem is, I'm going to guess the Mike Palms of the world are going to make it so that it's almost impossible to play too many Luka Doncic overs. I'll have to explore that.
Yeah. Great job, Tom. Good to talk to you. I love you bringing up the 87 Lakers as well. So good luck on the series, and thanks for a few minutes.
Anytime, fellas.
There you
Thanks,
go. Tom Byrne on the Progressive Guest Line. That's he's right about that. Even when Luka has a poor game, like he did in a couple of times, especially struggling from 3 against the Clippers and Thunder. Look at the numbers. I mean, it's like rolls out of bed 28, 10, and 9. It's a bad game for him.
And you watch him, and it looks like he's playing at 3/4 speed.
Yes.
That's pretty amazing.
I know. Incredible response to announcers. We'll read some of the tweets and emails. And I forgot about a guy that I can't stand as well. We'll get to that, and also Scott Agnes covers the Fever beat writer. Oh, everyone wants to talk about Caitlin Clark. That's straight ahead as well.
Follow the money. That's what I always say. You always follow the money. Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
Welcome in. It's part of the show brought to you by DraftKings. Paulie Howard, Mike Paulman for Mitch Moss. We'll talk hockey at the bottom of the hour with Jonathan Davis. Joined now by Scott Agnes. He's on the Progressive Guest Line, Fever beat writer, podcast host, play-by-play announcer. And follow him on X at Scott Agnes, AGNESS. And appreciate the time, sir. This has been a wild week for you, I'm sure. And then you'd like to just talk about basketball, but all the off-the-court stuff. And what grade? Let me start here. What grade would you give the league and the commissioner thus far of the WNBA season?
It depends who you ask, right? If you're talking about the Fever, I'm not sure you could go above a C just based on the schedule that they were given to them. 7 games in 11 days, 11 games in 20 days. Obviously, from a bigger picture, everyone has a less than favorable schedule because of the Olympic break. Mm-hmm. And so they have to condense the schedule even more. That's the overlying problem. But if you're here in Indiana, the biggest issue for the team is lack of practice time in games almost every other day. They just wrapped up a week, by the way, where they started and ended with back-to-back games.
Yes, that's a great point about the 11 games in 20 days, no practice. And you're also taking on the top teams in the league. And as you pointed out, that this isn't getting enough attention. There was no time off for Caitlin Clark.
No, yeah, she went right into this because she reached the national championship game with Iowa. And then she went into like draft weekend or the weekend the weekend before that, it was Saturday Night Live. She went from LA to New York. Then it was the draft, then came here for media. And then went home for, I'm not sure it was a full week, but that's about all the downtime she has had probably since September, when the college basketball season kind of starts ramping up.
Scott, you mentioned that and the lack of breaks she got. We still have another 6 weeks of games, although not at this ridiculous schedule of 11 games in 20 days. Only the second time in WNBA history that's happened. Bad job, Kathy Engelbert. But Aaliyah Boston will be on the USA Olympic team in Paris, but no other Fever will be. Do you expect the Fever to gain an advantage coming out of the Olympic break because Caitlin will have had a chance to finally catch her breath?
Well, we're not sure just yet. There's a couple spots still up for grabs, and I would be entirely shocked if Caitlin does not grab one of those for a number of reasons. But one of the underlying things, if you follow within USA Basketball, biggest sponsor, Nike. Caitlin Clark signs record deal with Nike. So for all the reasons outside of basketball, I think she'll probably make the team and be part of that group. So that would only extend this time of no break even further.
What were your expectations going in, getting this assignment, and then how's it played out in terms of just the response and the I guess the circus coming to town when they're, and how people can't get enough of this story and her?
Yeah, first of all, it's been fantastic because this franchise has not been relevant since 2016. Since Tamika Catchings, the Hall of Famer, retired, it's been an embarrassment of numerous things. They've had countless high draft picks that just didn't pan out. They've had like a second and third overall pick that were waived before 1 year was even up. Just little things like that you just cannot allow to happen. So now with Caitlin added to the mix, I mean, here's one way to put it in perspective. When the Pacers were traveling in the postseason, one of 4 TV stations traveled. When Caitlin Clark and when there was draft night in Brooklyn, all 4 local TV stations were there to cover that. For example, there's more attention on this team right now than certainly the Fever. One of the other things I love to bring up is how at a Fever opening night game, post game, there were about 31 media people, 8 different cameras. I bet if you looked at the same time last year, there were 3 people in the room and 1 camera.
That is staggering. That is wild. So your thoughts on the incident, the shove, what happened in the last game, and as you pointed out on X, and I thought you were spot on, no accountability from the other side in the sky, what happened afterwards, and then it's not a flagrant at the time, and just what that's, after it happened in the last 3 days, what the story has now become.
Yeah, I think my biggest thing right now is I'd love to see all these teams and individuals say what they want to say or tackle what they want to say in the moment. We keep having to wait a couple days each time, and that even goes with the Fever head coach Christy Side. The couple times I've given her an opportunity to talk about it, and she's relented. And I understand a couple times just because I don't want to get fined or I got to be careful what I say. If it was me, I know it's not my money, but I think I'd go, look, this isn't just the franchise. This is potentially a generational player.
Yeah.
I'm going to get fined until something changes, because if not, something with this team's going to go down. I don't know about my status might go down. Something negative is here. I realize everything we do right now is directly related to Caitlin. And so one thing that's also been happening is teams are playing her incredibly physical here to start the game. Nothing dirty most of the time. Just, I'm talking pressuring full court like it's a playoff game, and that started from game 1. Like, you just do not see this, where from 94 feet, she's having to watch her back because somebody's on her and riding her all the way down the court like it is such a meaningful game. Then beyond that, teams are making sure she feels them. So if it's a screen, she might get a little extra pop. If the first or second game, I think it was of the season against New York, she ran into a screen, and you could tell the lack of maybe communication and playing time and chemistry. Nobody seemingly called it out. So she ran into one screen.
Yeah.
Then the opponent went to the other side, and she ran into the other. She was basically sandwiched and helpless, and she's like 5'10" and 150 pounds. Like, there is not much to her. And so to take those big hits, and then you get to this Kennedy Carter issue, and I'm certain we probably all agree, like, there is no place in line for that. But the worst thing about it, one, was her not being held accountable individually, but second of all, how did the officials not call that a flagrant 1 live in game, and it ended up being a 1-point game? What if the Fever on the other end, they lost by 1, and that flagrant wasn't called. That's why it's so important to catch that stuff live. And that one, there was no doubt. That one was easy.
Were you surprised? Well said. Great answers. Were you surprised that the teammates weren't there to help her up or didn't send a message the other way?
I am a little bit, for sure. I wonder how much of that is got individuals. You got to keep in mind, this is a losing team right now coming out of it, right? Aaliyah Boston was number one pick because the Fever had a bad record. Caitlin Clark because they had a bad record. So how many of it is individuals kind of looking out for themselves and not trying to ruffle any feathers or add anything to their list for, a reason they could be considered, on a hot seat or you could be cut or anything. Yet at the same time, maybe this is a huge learning moment for them and they haven't had to come to anyone's defense because they haven't been put in these moments. Although I don't completely buy that one because several of them most of them actually, were high-level college players. Katie Lou Samuelson came from Connecticut. Kelsey Mitchell came from Ohio State. So in their previous situation, they were playing at an incredibly high level. And quite frankly, this goes back to almost instincts and playing, what I always say is middle school. If your teammate's getting roughhoused, you're going to go over there and make sure they feel you a little bit and make sure it doesn't happen again. Now, I think you'll go over the top here with Caitlin. And as I tweeted a couple weeks ago, I think much like a lineman to their quarterback, there needs to be someone in there, not playing dirty, just making sure, nope, this isn't going to happen. Nope, not on my watch.
Scott, I know when you're the number one overall draft pick in any sport, you're going to a team for a reason because they had the worst record in most cases. But is this a particularly tough landing spot for Caitlin Clark in that this is Christy Seid's first head coaching job? I know she's from Ruston, and she was an assistant at Louisiana Tech, but I think it was after Leon Barmore left. And Lynn Dunn, the last time I remember Lynn Dunn, she was disappointed in the NCAA tournament at Purdue. How tough of a spot is it with this organization right now?
I'd say, first of all, on the court, it worked out nicely because obviously Aaliyah being an inside post player and Caitlin outside, it's a nice tandem there that can complement each other well, right? If it's back-to-back guards or back-to-back bigs, that can complicate things. But I think there's no doubt having a first-time head coach in Christy Sides. This is year 2 for her, so this is not the beginning by any means. But she doesn't have that, tested coach that's been there quite a while. Now, Lynn Dunn on the other side has done just about everything. She came back to the franchise, let's say about 4 years ago, in an interim GM role when things just were not going right, as I alluded to earlier. They brought her back in what they expected was interim, and then ultimately both sides liked how it was working, and she said, I'll just finish my career here, and let's get this ship righted here a little bit. And before that, she was a Fever head coach and won the championship with Tamika Catchings and Stephanie White, who's now Connecticut's head coach, and the coach of the year was her top assistant here in Indiana. That was a decade ago in 2012. So I don't think I don't know how much it complicates it, but it's certainly not as advantageous necessarily as maybe a successful coach who has been there, done that. Whereas Christy, she's full of energy, she's full of life, she's full of positivity and reinforcement and trying to improve this team. But it's hard to evaluate. A lot of fans right now questioning her job. My thing is, hey, let's at least be able to see what they can do on the basketball court. And I basically view this first month of the season as a wash just because of the schedule and the circumstances that were so unfavorable. I'm not sure what you can take out of it. I'm not sure they didn't do anything less than we expected them to do, given their previous history and how quickly they had to force everything to act based on that schedule.
Appreciate the time, Scott. Good insight, and enjoy the season.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Right. Scott Agnes covers the Fever and the Pacers. He's on the Progressive guest line. Follow him on X as well. But your point earlier about the loss is going to continue, then what does it look like? Because certainly none of them no favors with this schedule. That's nuts. 11 games in 20 days, and the Aces have played 6 in the same time.
And they played the top team.
That's right.
They've only had a few winnable games, really.
Yeah. The Liberties, that's a horrible matchup for them. What we're betting in pocket coming up next.
to determine the winner of any given college basketball game.
Someone gives you 10,000 to 1 on anything. You take it. Take it. Take it.
I bet you $20 I can get you gambling before the end of the day. No way. I'll give you 3 to 1 odds. Nope. 5 to 1. Nope. 10 to 1. You're out.
All right. As you know, we've been talking about this for 3-4 months. I had futures on the Thunder, the Timberwolves, and the Mavs. So all during this ride, I've taken Celtics to win the title, and I jumped in when they were $1.30 and realized this was the Boston Invitational in the Eastern Conference. White to win Finals MVP 45 to 1, Mavs title 23 to 1, and did the double. Celtics to win Game 1 and win the series minus 130 also as a mini hedge. And I like the Panthers. I like them a lot. See if Canada can end the drought, but I think it's a tough matchup for Edmonton. I was dead wrong, though, and they surprised me and were excellent against Dallas. I'm with Mike that Florida's the best team. And the way Bob's playing, the offense, I'll take Bob over Skinner, although Skinner's playing well. But to be outshot 35-10 on your home ice in a clinching game, they get the win. But I think it's cheap here. And I also laid a game and a half with the Panthers as well. That's my pick for the Cup. That's the pending and the new. We talked about it earlier in the show. Total ownage. The Yankees, this is not 1 year, this is over 20 years. The Yankees have dominated the Minnesota Twins. In May, they went to Minnesota, not only swept them, outscored them 14 to 1. I'll go run line today, plus 120. You can do better than that in some spots. Heel going against Ken Ober. Remote control. The Yankees are on fire right now, playing great ball. And it's just something the Twins can't beat them. And it's been that way even when they had Santana and they were playoff teams and they were a good organization. They can't get it done. And I'll take the Yankees, even though it's a Malinsky special. But I did have the day off yesterday as well. Good luck, everyone.
All right, 2 plays in a Major League Baseball card today for me. We'll go with the guy that's the best in almost every category so far, Seth Lugo. He's been great on the road as well. 78 1/3 innings, eating up innings for this Royals team. They offered them as well yesterday after completing the homestand, going to Cleveland, taking on Tristan McKenzie, who has troubles with his control at times. Take Lugo at a very short price here, minus 105 on the road, and then look, Trevor Williams, I think, flying under the radar this year so far with the Nats. 5-0 right now, and it's not because they're scoring 8 runs a game for him. The ERA is 2.22, and he's eaten up innings in his 9 starts, 56 2/3 as well. Here, minus 105 at home against the Mets, who you never know when their bullpen will give up a 6 or 7 spot.
Yes. Oh, that's a disaster. Absolutely how bad it's been. All right. Love the Lugo pick. What a story. I can't believe the year he's having. And the Royals.
Odds on right now.
That's
for
right.
Cy Young.
Yep. Tom the Trumpets, horse racing time. Saddle up. DK Horse, official DraftKings affiliate. New customers who download the DK Horse app get 100% deposit bonus up to $250 when you use promo code VSINHorse, all one word. Deposit $25 or more. Complete the playthrough requirement. Wager on your favorite horses. Watch the races live right in the app. Download the DK Horse app now. And good luck. Could have talked to Scott all day. I mean, but this is... So I can't give you much on this because I'm new to the sport. I never watched the WNBA. My only experience was playing that a girl who played in the WNBA one-on-one and losing 21-11.
What year was that?
Good question. 10 years ago? 15 years ago? Yeah. We were supposed to play a WNBA team, UNLV girls team, and then it became a WNBA. It was supposed to be 5-on-5, and then somehow I got out there against a pro, and then it was, who picks the game to 21? And then it wasn't make it, take it, but it's like, come on. And then I was gassed, and I'd been working out at that point. It was a long time ago, but I was gassed, and she was, I had problems guarding her, but she was a pro, and I never played a day of organized basketball in my life. My stance was if I win, shut the league down. But so I can't give you much about how this is when I look at people who have covered this sport for a while. Is this jealousy? But I think this is how they always treat the new kid on the block, and it's welcome to the WNBA rookie. But you're also biting the hand that feeds you, and you're kind of going over the top here with how you're treating Clark.
Well, remember when Iowa beat Connecticut in the semifinal game, and Van Pelt had the two Connecticut former stars on.
Mm-hmm. This is fair. Yeah.
Yeah. And they said, the WNBA has something waiting for Caitlin Clark. And I thought, well, a lot of people criticized the comment at the time. And they had just lost on a call of a moving screen when we're going to have the last shot to win the game. And so everybody was a little bit upset. But, I mean, they weren't lying. And I watched, I know McNutt and Stephen A. Smith went back and forth yesterday, but the girl that's on the network, Chimmy McKay, is that how you say her last name?
Yeah.
Who played in the WNBA.
Okay. Yeah, good.
She did like a 3-minute State of the Union I watched on Twitter last night about how when she was a rookie, she got treated like this too.
As I understand it, so did Candace Parker.
And they get very rough. They get very physical. The sport is much more physical than the NBA. Yeah. Are you watching these whole games? I mean, they don't blow the whistle a lot. They're more bound to blow the whistle on somebody trying to block a shot from behind than this really heavy contact in the paint. So I get that it's a tough league and that it's what do they say? It's a grown blank women's league and all this. But at the same time, you have all these rookies coming in, and Caitlin's the leader of it, but Angel and Cameron Brink, and these people lifting this game up. At some point, don't we want to present a little bit more appeasing product to watch? A little bit more aesthetically pleasing and a little less rough out there on the court in order to keep your ratings up and keep people that are tuning their eyes on the game for the first time
if something happens to her, there goes your meal ticket.
Yeah. There goes your ratings.
Yes.
I mean,
and you brought up a great point. What happens if this team is just atrocious and they keep taking losses?
They got to start getting to where they win 40% of their games to keep it interesting.
Uh-huh.
Now maybe she put eyes on the league and people will like it and they'll continue to watch and they'll continue to. Well, this Connecticut team is undefeated. I think they're playing the only team that hasn't won a game, Washington, tonight. It's like a 12.5 point line. Minus 11. It's like Iga Swiatek on the money line. It's like minus $11, but they're not playing the 5th ranked team in the world. So maybe that will happen. I think this Minnesota team is interesting as well. The Sky, a very athletic team.
You got to talk about what's going on the court, though. You can't be into this soap opera stuff and this others, the jealousy and what Barkley said, what's going on. What'd you think of Angel Reese's comments yesterday?
Well, very,
she's taking heat now, too. But
very secure in her own position, right? Uh-huh. It's a two persons that have listed this league, and I'm the villain and that role. I mean,
she has a point going back to when they beat her when they won the championship, and she pointed to her family. I mean, you needed that. That helped.
The key was that Iowa made it, and they beat South Carolina that year.
Yeah.
That was a huge upset. They were a 12-point underdog in that semifinal game, and they beat Dawn Staley in South Carolina. And then they put the game at noon on a Sunday, 3 o'clock Eastern, and everybody watched, and you had the whole Angel Reese and the finger and the I can't see you, John Cena, and all that. And then it just continued through this year. And Iowa made the whole run and got back there again. And actually, they matched them up in the regional. They win the regional final against LSU. They beat Connecticut in the semifinal, but not just too deep South Carolina. So she just telling part of the story. But I think if you're going to say it's more than Caitlin, you have to say it's more than two as well.
Yes.
It's a really good rookie class.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see.
It was a phenomenal year for women's college basketball. You also had the gal at USC, and you had...
My wife watched every Iowa tournament game and has watched every Indiana Fever game that we could get. But on the one game was on Peacock, and then it was behind a paywall. Or it was on Prime, Amazon Prime is what it was. But it was behind a WNBA paywall. So we have Amazon Prime, but we didn't have the W. And I said, well, there's only 2 games on all year, so she didn't see. But she will sit down and watch. She'll watch no other basketball, not men's basketball, but she watches because she's fascinated with Caitlin Clark.
Well, you wonder if the coach is on a hot seat, though, too, because it's Doug Kazarian who's been following this league. It just what can you draw up to get her open looks? Or here, you're not doing a good enough job. And also there was a good point from Scott though about no break. I mean, you just end your season ends and then it's okay.
Well, they start right away because they have to take a month off for the Olympics. So, I never thought that they would put her in the last 2 spots there because she's just a rookie into the league. But it's very possible. So I thought that would be a nice spot for them to go on a run afterwards if only Aaliyah was on the team.
Plethora of picks coming up next. We'll talk Conn Smythe, shots on goal props, who's going to win the series, and all of it with Jonathan Davis coming up next. Stanley Cup final begins Saturday. How big of a deal is experience, like Gretzky talked about, and the travel. We're talking about the longest travel here in Stanley Cup finals history as well, with 2,500 miles. Can Canada end the drought? Canada hasn't won it since 93. Edmonton hasn't won it since 1990. Jonathan Davis to preview the Stanley Cup coming up next on VSiN. Follow the Money, the Sports Betting Network.